Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use fluid head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun.
Well, viewers, this is a very special episode of No Budget Reviews. As you can see, some of us are here. We've been to the BMC Leyland show, including Mr. William Dunlop, whose 2005 MG ZR 105 Trophy SE this is. And we've come over to Longbridge. There's Mr. Pektron in the background, just photographing his MG3 that you will also see on my channel quite soon. And yes, might as well come here and photograph this. This is a very late production ZR. Obviously April 2005 is where it all went wrong, and you can still buy these for well under £1,000, which is why we're here. In fact, I don't think that William paid anywhere near that for this, so it's classic No Budget Reviews. And I know that you like MG Rover stuff from this era, and here we are. So the car's basically an evolution of the Rover 25, which is, you know, very closely based on the old R3 200. And you know, elements of that date back to the old R8 200 and 400s, which are based on you know, even older Honda models. So it's quite an interesting sort of lineage for one of these. But this Trophy SE model does look very good. It's got extra things like air conditioning in it, and these large alloy wheels, just 17 inches in size. Only got rear drum brakes though, because this only has a 1.4 engine. Reminds me of the Rover 25 that I used to own, and also you would have seen on No Budget Reviews, which belongs to Jude. But we've got the facelifted dash in here. Strangely enough, this car doesn't have a passenger airbag. There's space for one just there, and then the Rover 25 I used to have, that actually was just a hole. Door pockets are not too bad, they're okay. Got these rather nice door handles, even now they don't feel too bad. Half leather seats as well. And this is actually a Ford gearbox. It's what's called the IB5 Ford gearbox, because in 2003 they were still using the joint Peugeot Citroen Rover R65 gearbox, but BMW still own the factory for the gearboxes, because you know, they retained certain things following the collapse, following the sale of the Rover Group to the Phoenix Consortium in 2000. So they've put the prices up of the gearboxes, and it was actually cheaper to buy a Ford gearbox of these cars. So from mid 2003, 1.4 and above, sorry, no, 1.4, 1.6 and 1.1 models of the 25 and ZR used a Ford gearbox. Glove boxes in here, that's plenty big enough for your secret mission documents. The centre console is completely different from on the earlier 25s and R3 200s. Has light switches different. All these buttons are similar but not exactly the same. Because this is a Trophy SE, we've got air conditioning in here, just standard aircon. I think the heater and everything like that is the same as an R8 actually still in this, and sometimes the fan doesn't work. I'm not putting it on the highest speed. That means the resistor's gone. Original equipment stereo in one of these as well, and place to put all kinds of interesting things, MG branded goods, which, you know, I do like, you know, some MG branded goods. Steering wheel again, sort of similar to the sort of Rover models of the era. White dials, of course, because this is a later car. And the electric window switches are still down here, like they are on an R3 200. But yes, I do like it. The dashboard's not cracked. My old 2004 facelift 45, the dashboard actually cracked, but this actually hasn't done now, which is good. Right, I think it's time for me to try to see if I can get in the back. Okay, viewers, this is just for you. Let's see if we can get in. Just leave that door not too far out, because we are on a road after all. Okay. Okay, we're in. Just move some more MG branded goodness out of the way so I can sit back. Headroom isn't great, if I'm honest. If I just move the seat there but not entirely imprison myself, you can see I've not got a lot of knee room, so I'm going to free myself from here. There are 3 seat belts at the back. I've actually got headrests as well. I haven't got any kind of anything interesting though. No sort of pockets or anything. But as a push, I could do a short journey in there, but I wouldn't want to go too far. Right. Interestingly, this has got the facelifted wiper and indicator stalks that were also used on the 45s and 25s. They do feel a bit nicer than the pre-facelift ones, like I've got on my 45 V6. Okay, let's have a look at the engine. Right, viewers, we've seen this engine an awful lot before on No Budget Reviews. This is the Rover K series engine. In this case, it's a 1.4 unit developing 103 brake horsepower. Despite the fact it's called a 105, it's actually 103 brake horsepower. We've seen this in the 1995 214 R3 that Mr. Duke Curry owned, that he paid a printing sum, I think, of £100 for it or something. And then in the Rover 25 that Jude used to own, which is an early 25 from 99. And now here we are again. This is actually Euro 4 compliant engine. The one's from mid-2003 R. And yeah, it's a pokey little unit. We'll go for a drive in a little bit. I think it's 0 to 60 in under 10 seconds, which is pretty good. Of course, these do suffer from some cam cover gasket, and you need to make sure that you change the timing belt in this engine quite regularly. I think about every 6 years, or about 60,000 miles is good, maybe slightly longer. But you do have to make sure, of course, your head gasket's not going. The ones these days people recommend are actually the original spec head gaskets. A good quality one like a Victor Reinz unit will do well. You don't necessarily need to preventatively change the head gasket if you don't want to, but if it is going, make sure you get someone who knows what they're doing to change it, and make sure you use a good original spec one like a Victor Reinz one, and that should be fine. Front of the car as well, it's different from the pre-facelift ZRs. The electrical systems and the engines and one of the dials were changed in mid-2003, but the facelift came in about, I think it was April 2004, something like that. It's not actually that difficult to work on. Just got to make sure you just look after these and they'll serve you well. They are perky little engines. Okay, let's take a look at the boot. Right, viewers, because this is the Trophy SE, we have the parking sensors on the back. The only way to get in is by using this infamous Pektron keyfob. Now, in mid-2003, when they changed the engines to Euro 4 compliance on the ZRs and 25s and ZSs and 45s, they introduced a new electrical system using the Pektron remote, and these are infamous do not lose your remote. If you've got a spare when buying a car, that's brilliant, but if they become unprogrammed and your security control unit goes wrong, which does happen on these, then it's a bit difficult to find someone who will actually, you know, reprogram one of these for you and put a new one in. It can cost actually more than the car is worth sometimes, just be aware of that. So open boot. There we go, we're open. You can see it's actually pretty big for a car of this size, and we've got a multi-changer in here. Fantastic. There's a spare wheel under here. I'm not going to sort of stop pulling the carpet up. It's actually over 300 litres of space in this, which is very, very good. That's more than an MG3. Boot lights in here. You could get a full size or a space saver, a spare wheel in here, but it's actually pretty good. It's quite a lip, but that's pretty typical of the cars of this era. You can tell that when the R3 200 came out in 1995, it was actually a rival for things like the Ford Escort, a sort of, you know, what we consider to be the class above. I think these are original spec tail lamps, I could be wrong. A lot of these were changed back in the era. But yes, nice practical shaped boot, and these do make really good first cars for enthusiasts. In fact, I think it's time for some slightly enthusiastic driving in Birmingham. So we've got Mr. Macklin from the Macklin Motors YouTube channel in the back. Morning. With us. Morning, yes indeed. We're just going to go for a little drive around. Yeah, I remember this this Ford IB5 gearbox from the identically engine 25 I used to have. They do go a bit loose at higher mileages, and Mr. Dunlop's just told me that third gear is a bit reluctant, but I've just tried third gear and it seems okay for the time being. So the engine options available in ZR, or at least the ones we can talk about, because there's a certain fuel that we don't talk about on this channel that will become you know, evident a bit later. This 1.4 in the ZR 105, although it's 103 brake horsepower. Then, unlike in a 25 or an R3 200, there's no 1.6 option, so straight up to the 120 brake horsepower 1.8 K series. That was available actually with both a manual and an automatic gearbox. The manual on that won't be this Ford gearbox, it'll be the Honda PG1 unit. The automatic was called the Step Speed, it's a CVT unit. They can have a few problems, so you know, I'd probably stick with a manual one of those if it were me. And then on top of the range, the ZR 160 with I think it's 158 brake horsepower, and the VVC unit, but it's also found in things like the MGTF. There were also some diesels available. But as usual, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. Thank you, gentlemen.
I've learned.
So trim levels available in an MG ZR were just like ZR 105, ZR 120, and also there'd be the Plus models available as well, so you could get a ZR 120 Plus, for example, that had a few more bits and pieces. Now there were some special editions as well, with the pre-facelift ones, which were before sort of about April 2004, there was an Atomic special edition on the 1.4 models, and this is a very late car. It's a 55 plate, so it was registered well after the bankruptcy of MG Rover, so this is actually a Trophy SE. There was also a Trophy model available, and that was available on a few more engine options. And this has, you know, the CD multi-changer and all kinds of interesting stuff. I am very much enjoying driving this, even though it's only a short little drive today because we haven't got the most time in the world. But this gearbox doesn't actually present me too many problems. The idea that I know William picked this car up for well under £1,000, and you can have this much fun in something like this. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So as you can maybe see from the way the camera's bouncing up and down even more than usual, after all this is no budget reviews and the mount's in the way, and that's just the way it goes on this channel. If I just adjust that up slightly, there we go.
the suspension is firmer than a 25. I mean, the layout in this does date back a little bit. The rear end actually a modified Maestro rear end in this car, and the front suspension is sort of related to the old R8s. But that's no problem. The steering and handling of these is fantastic. Hydraulic power steering, McPherson front suspension, I believe, in these, and they just don't drive like a modern car, apart from maybe an MG3, because they were developed by the same sort of people, I think, actually, MG3 and the ZR. But to take the ingredients which didn't sound at the time too appealing at Rover 25, which actually they're pretty good cars, it's just people had a very bad image of them. And so, you know, when we go away from these lights and we actually change, we'll be able to sort of sample a bit more of that. There we go. That sounds good. So make sure we don't get caught speeding. We're well within legal limits. But yes, it's just a pleasure to drive. It reminds me of my old 25 and all the 200s I've driven. You know, we've had a 214, a very early one, the R3 generation from about 95. We also had an automatic one, or the 216, from slightly later on, both owned by Mr. June Curry. And this just sort of kind of completes the set, and it's an absolute pleasure to drive this. It's just very strange to be at the wheel of this, just round the corner from where this car was made. And I'm just pleased we're not actually driving on Lloyd Lane itself, because it's a bit bumpy and the suspension would get caught out. But if this is ultimately what you want, then this is brilliant. So viewers, the MG ZR, is this something that you should consider if your budget of under £1,000? Well, if you can find a car that's not completely rusted, and you know there are numerous rust spots on these, and one that's had a good service history with regular cam belt changes and servicing, and the head gasket is not on its way out, then this could be a fantastic little car for a young enthusiast, or even someone who's just young at heart. I really enjoyed driving this. There are some reservations just for me personally. The driving position I don't find particularly comfortable in a 25 R3200 or a ZR. That's just me personally. Lots of people drive these for hours on end and don't have an issue. It's just personally me. And you know, the build quality's maybe not the highest. You know, MG Rover by this stage, even before their bankruptcy, just didn't have a lot of money to be able to improve things. But the steering and handling of one of these is exemplary. It's absolutely amazing fun, and for that alone, you might well want to consider these. So thank you ever so much indeed for watching this episode of No Budget Reviews. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, to like this video and leave a comment below. Thank you again to Mr. Dunlop for lending this car for review. And yes, social media links are down below. And please don't forget to click the notification bell to be informed of new uploads. Thank you.